The email arrived at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, marked urgent in bold red letters. I stared at the subject line. Required attendance. Executive meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My hands trembled slightly as I clicked it open. After 6 years of marriage to David Chen, CFO of Meridian Holdings, I'd learned to recognize the subtle tells of his lies, the late nights, the sudden business trips, the way his phone screen always faced down on restaurant tables. But this was something new. Sarah, the email read, your presence is required at Meridian Holdings headquarters tomorrow morning. David has requested a family matter be addressed in a professional setting. Conference room 7B, do not be late. It was signed by someone named Victoria Ashford, executive assistant. I read it 3 times, my coffee growing cold in my hands. A family matter. In his office. With witnesses. My phone buzzed. David's name flashed on the screen. Did you get the email? His voice was clipped, businesslike. The tone he used with subordinates. What is this about? I asked, keeping my voice steady. We need to have a conversation, Sarah, a professional one. It's time we addressed certain complications in our arrangement. Our arrangement, as if our marriage was a corporate merger gone sideways. David, if you want a divorce, you don't need a conference room. 9 a.m., Sarah, don't make this harder than it needs to be. He hung up. I sat in our designer kitchen, all marble countertops and custom cabinetry that I'd never wanted, staring at my phone. Something was wrong. This wasn't how David operated. He was a coward in personal matters. Always had been. He'd proposed via a scheduled calendar invite. He'd told me about his mother's death through a forwarded email from his sister. But this felt orchestrated, calculated. I opened my laptop and searched Victoria Ashford Meridian Holdings. Her LinkedIn profile loaded, executive assistant to CFO David Chen MBA Wharton, previously at Goldman Sachs. The profile picture showed a woman in her early 30s, blonde hair styled in a severe bun, sharp cheekbones, and eyes that reminded me of a predator sizing up prey. I clicked through her posts, professional development seminars, corporate culture initiatives. And then, 3 months ago, a photo from a company retreat in Aspen. David was in the background, his hand resting on someone's shoulder. I zoomed in. Victoria Ashford's shoulder. The way he touched her, casual, familiar, possessive, told me everything I needed to know. I spent that evening doing what any woman in my position would do. I went digging. Not through David's phone or email. I wasn't that desperate, not yet. Instead, I opened the filing cabinet in his home office, the one he thought I never touched because it was just boring work documents. Boring. Right. The first folder contained expense reports, dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, hotel rooms in cities he'd claimed were day trips. A pattern emerged quickly. Every charge was paired with another employee code. Victoria Ashford's code. The second folder made my blood run cold. It was labeled HR Consultation Confidential and contained a draft complaint. Against me? Drafted by someone named Martin Wessler from Meridian's legal department, it outlined allegations that I had been harassing David at his workplace, making unannounced visits, and creating a hostile work environment for him and his colleagues. Every single allegation was a lie. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I'd visited his office exactly 3 times in 6 years. Once to bring him his forgotten wallet. Once for a company holiday party where spouses were explicitly invited. And once when his father had a heart attack and I needed to tell him in person. But here, In careful legal language, these moments had been twisted. The wallet incident became aggressive confrontation in the executive suite. The holiday party became inappropriate behavior towards staff members. My notification about his father became emotional manipulation in a professional setting. Someone was building a case against me, and tomorrow morning I was walking straight into it. I photographed every page with my phone, my hands steadier now. Anger has a way of sharpening focus. At midnight, I was still awake, sitting in the dark living room when David came home. He loosened his tie as he walked in, not bothering to turn on the lights. "You're up," he said flatly. "Couldn't sleep. You should rest. Tomorrow's going to be intense." "David." I kept my voice calm. "What's really happening here?" He poured himself a drink from the bar cart, the ice clinking in the silence. "You're making this difficult, Sarah. It doesn't have to be." "Making what difficult?" "The transition." He took a long sip. "We've grown apart. You know it. I know it. I'm offering you a dignified exit." "A dignified exit? Is that what you call ambushing me at your office?" "It's a controlled environment, neutral ground, witnesses to ensure things don't get emotional." "Witnesses?" I stood up, finally letting some of my anger show. "Or people who've already been coached on what to say?" His jaw tightened. "9 a.m., Sarah. Be there, or my lawyers will make this much more unpleasant." He walked upstairs, leaving me alone with the ice melting in his unfinished drink. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did something I should have done years ago. I called my old college roommate, Jessica Torres, who'd gone on to become a litigation attorney specializing in employment law. "Sarah, do you know what time it is?" Her voice was thick with sleep. "Jess, I need help. I think my husband is trying to set me up." There was a pause, then the sound of rustling sheets. "Tell me everything." I did. I sent her the photos of the documents. By 3 a.m., she'd called me back, her voice no longer sleepy but sharp and focused. "Sarah, this is textbook corporate manipulation. They're building a paper trail to justify terminating a relationship, in this case, your marriage, while protecting the company and your husband from any blowback. But here's the thing. Some of these allegations could technically be construed as defamation if they're false. They are false. Then you need documentation proving it. Do you have calendars? Emails? Anything showing when you actually visited his office versus when they claim you did?" Maybe. In my email archives. Find them. Now. And Sarah, don't go to that meeting alone. I'm in Chicago, but I can find you local representation by morning. Someone who specializes in... Wait. Something clicked in my mind. "Jess, you said this is about protecting the company. What if it's not just about the divorce?" "What do you mean?" "Victoria Ashford. She's his assistant. If they're having an affair and it's in the workplace, that's a liability for Meridian Holdings, isn't it?" Jessica's silence was telling. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. "Sarah, how long has she been his assistant?" "I don't know. A year. Maybe longer. And he's been promoting her involvement in executive decisions?" "I don't know the details of his work. But you know he has authority over her employment, her salary, her career trajectory." The implications sank in slowly. They're trying to get ahead of it. If anyone finds out about the affair, they need me to look like the unstable one, the jealous wife, the one making false accusations. Exactly. And if you walk into that meeting tomorrow without representation, without documentation, without a strategy, they're going to steamroll you. They'll have you sign something, an NDA, a settlement agreement, something that protects them and silences you. So what do? You fight back. And Sarah? You might want to consider that if they're building a false harassment case against you, You might actually have grounds for a real harassment case against them. I spent the rest of the night gathering evidence. Every email I'd sent to David, every text message, my calendar going back 6 years, meticulously maintained because I'd always been organized to a fault. Photos from the holiday party showing me chatting pleasantly with colleagues, not behaving inappropriately, as their document claimed. By 7 a.m., I had a file folder of my own. By 8 a.m., Jessica had connected me with an attorney named Marcus Webb, whose office was 20 minutes from Meridian Holdings headquarters. "Mrs. Chen," he said when I arrived at 8:30, slightly breathless. Jessica gave me the overview. "I've reviewed the documents you sent. This is highly irregular. And frankly, it concerns me." Marcus Webb was in his 50s, with silver hair and the kind of steady gaze that suggested he'd seen every trick in the book. His office was understated but expensive. Real wood furniture, leather-bound law books, and a view of the city that probably cost more than my car. "Can they do this?" I asked. "Can they just make things up?" "They can try, but lies require maintenance. Truth is simpler." He pulled out a legal pad. "You said this meeting is at 9 a.m. We have 25 minutes. Tell me everything about your relationship with your husband's workplace. Every visit, every interaction, every email or phone call to anyone there." I walked him through it all. The 3 visits, the occasional calls to his assistant, his previous assistant, a kind older woman named Margaret, who'd retired 8 months ago. The annual holiday parties where I'd been cordial, but largely kept to myself because David's work friends weren't my people. And this, Victoria Ashford. Tell me about her. I've never met her in person, but I found expense reports showing she's been traveling with David for months, hotels, dinners, all billed to the company. Marcus's eyebrows rose. "Do you still have those reports?" "Photographed every page." "Good. Very good." He checked his watch. "Mrs. Chen, I'm going to be frank with you. What they're attempting is a preemptive strike, but they're not expecting you to have counsel. They're not expecting you to have documentation, and they're certainly not expecting you to know about the affair or the expense reports. So what's the play? We walk in there. We listen to what they have to say. We don't agree to anything. We don't sign anything, and we gather information. Think of it as reconnaissance. And then?" His smile was razor sharp. "And then we decide whether to hit back. But Sarah, I need to ask you something important. What do you want out of this? Because there are several paths we can take, and they all lead to very different places." I thought about David's face last night. The coldness, the calculation, the way he'd orchestrated all of this like a business transaction. "I want the truth to come out," I said finally. "Whatever that means." "Even if it costs you your marriage?" "My marriage died the first time he took her to bed. I just didn't know it yet." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then let's go to this meeting. And let's see exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes." We arrived at Meridian Holdings at 8:58 a.m. The building was one of those modern glass towers that look like a giant mirror reflecting the city back at itself. I'd been here for the holiday parties, but walking through the lobby now, with Marcus beside me, felt different, adversarial. The security guard checked our IDs and made a call. "Conference room 7B, he said. "7th floor. They're expecting you." The elevator ride was silent. I watched the numbers climb, my reflection in the polished steel doors showing a woman I barely recognized. I'd dressed carefully that morning, a navy suit that Jessica had couriered over from her own closet, professional heels, minimal jewelry. I looked like an attorney myself, which was exactly the point. The elevator opened onto the executive floor, plush carpeting, modern art on the walls, and at the far end of the hall, a blonde woman in a red power suit standing outside a conference room, Victoria Ashford. She watched us approach with the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Mrs. Chen. Right on time. Her gaze shifted to Marcus. And you are? Marcus Webb, Mrs. Chen's legal counsel. The smile faltered. Legal counsel? This is a family meeting. Any meeting held in a corporate setting with multiple parties present is, by definition, not a family meeting, Marcus said smoothly. Shall we? Victoria's composure cracked slightly, but she recovered. Of course. Right this way. She opened the conference room door and I stepped into what was very clearly an ambush. David sat at the head of the table, flanked by two men I didn't recognize. One was young, probably early 30s, with the eager look of a junior lawyer trying to make his bones. The other was older, gray-haired, with the kind of expensive suit that screamed senior partner. Sarah, David said, not standing. I see you brought a lawyer. That's unexpected. Is it? I took a seat directly across from him, Marcus settling in beside me. You send me a cryptic email demanding my presence at a professional meeting, and you think I'd come alone? The older lawyer, the senior partner, cleared his throat. Mrs. Chen, I'm Harold Pemberton, outside counsel for Meridian Holdings. This meeting has been called to address some concerning behavior that's been brought to our attention. Concerning behavior? I kept my voice level. By whom? By multiple parties, Pemberton said carefully. We've received complaints regarding your conduct at company functions and your interactions with Meridian Holdings staff members. I see. May I see these complaints? There was a pause. The junior lawyer shifted in his seat. These are internal HR matters. Victoria interjected. We're not required to share. Actually, Marcus said, his voice cutting through hers like a scalpel. If you're making allegations about my client's conduct that could impact her reputation or her marriage, she has every right to review the specific claims being made. Otherwise, this meeting constitutes defamation. Pemberton's jaw tightened. He slid a folder across the table. I opened it, already knowing what I'd find. The same fabricated incidents I'd seen in David's home office, now formatted on official company letterhead. But there was something new. Witness statements. Margaret Reeves, former executive assistant. Mrs. Chen frequently called Mr. Chen's office, often demanding to speak with him during important meetings. Her tone was aggressive and disruptive. Thomas Kirkland, VP of Operations. At the 2023 holiday party, Mrs. Chen made several employees uncomfortable with her questions about their relationships with Mr. Chen. Angela Morrison, HR Director. When Mrs. Chen visited the office in March 2024, she created a scene in the executive suite, raising her voice and disturbing multiple ongoing meetings. I looked up at David. These are lies. All of them. Sarah, he started. Margaret retired 8 months ago. I have every email and text message I ever sent to her. They were professional, brief, and, always, during reasonable hours. Thomas Kirkland, I've never had a private conversation with him in my life. And Angela Morrison. I pulled out my own folder. In March 2024, when I supposedly created a scene, I was at a medical conference in Seattle. Here's my hotel receipt, my plane ticket, and a selfie I took with colleagues at the Space Needle. I slid the documents across the table. The room went very quiet. Pemberton picked up the receipts, his face carefully neutral. The junior lawyer had gone pale. There seems to be some confusion about dates, Pemberton said finally. There's no confusion, Marcus said. There's fabrication. And I have to wonder why Meridian Holdings would participate in manufacturing evidence against a client's spouse. Unless, of course, there's something else going on here that the company is trying to obscure. Victoria's face had lost its smug confidence. David wouldn't meet my eyes. What exactly are you implying? Pemberton asked. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts. Marcus pulled out his own folder. God bless Jessica for working all night, and began laying out documents. Expense reports showing Mr. Chen and Ms. Ashford traveling together extensively over the past 14 months. Hotel rooms booked in the same cities on the same nights. Dinners for two charged to company accounts. All while Ms. Ashford reports directly to Mr. Chen, creating a clear conflict of interest and potential liability for Meridian Holdings under workplace harassment statutes. Those are business expenses, David started. Then you won't mind explaining why you expensed a weekend in Napa Valley as a client development meeting when Meridian Holdings has no clients in that region, and why Ms. Ashford was the only colleague present. The junior lawyer actually flinched. Pemberton held up a hand. Mr. Webb, I think we all need to take a step back here. Do we? Marcus leaned forward. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like Meridian Holdings attempted to manufacture harassment allegations against my client to preemptively discredit her in anticipation of an extramarital affair being exposed. An affair between a CFO and his direct subordinate, which puts this company at significant legal risk. We don't have to listen to this, Victoria said, her voice rising. This is clearly a jealous wife making accusations. Ms. Ashford, Marcus said quietly, I'd advise you to be very careful about what you say next. Because right now, you're not just a witness in this situation, you're potentially a defendant. The color drained from her face. David stood abruptly. This meeting is over. Actually, I said, finding my voice, I think we're just getting started. All eyes turned to me. I looked at my husband, at the man I'd spent 6 years building a life with. The man who'd promised to love and honor me. The man who'd apparently decided that destroying my reputation was easier than having an honest conversation. You thought you could control this, I said softly. You thought if you brought me here, surrounded by your lawyers and your company and your mistress, you could intimidate me into signing whatever agreement you'd prepared. An NDA, probably. Maybe a pre-negotiated divorce settlement that keeps everything quiet and protects your career. David's silence confirmed it. But here's what's actually going to happen, I continued. I'm going to leave this building, I'm going to go home, to our home, and I'm going to file for divorce. And then, I'm going to file a formal complaint with Meridian Holdings Board of Directors about the fabricated harassment allegations made against me and about the inappropriate relationship between a CFO and his subordinate that the company attempted to cover up. Sarah, David's voice held a warning note. And if that doesn't work, I said, standing, my attorney and I will be filing a lawsuit. Not just against you, David, against Victoria for participating in defamation. Against Meridian Holdings for fostering a hostile work environment and manufacturing false evidence. And we'll be requesting full discovery, which means every email, every expense report, every hotel receipt will become part of the public record. Pemberton had gone very still. Mrs. Chen, I don't think you understand the ramifications. I understand perfectly. David wanted to handle this professionally? Fine, let's be professional. Let's involve HR, legal departments, depositions, and court proceedings. Let's make everything official and documented and public. I picked up my purse and turned to Marcus. I believe we're done here. We made it to the elevator before my hand started shaking. Marcus noticed, pressing the lobby button without comment. That, he said quietly, was exceptionally well played. I'm terrified, I admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. But Sarah, you need to understand what you just started. This won't be quick or easy. David and Meridian Holdings have resources. They'll fight back. The elevator doors opened. We stepped into the lobby, and I took a deep breath of air that didn't smell like leather and expensive cologne and lies. Let them fight, I said. I've spent 6 years being the accommodating wife, the understanding spouse, the woman who didn't ask too many questions when her husband worked late. I'm done. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. How did it go? I replied, War has been declared. Marcus drove me back to his office, and we spent the next 3 hours documenting everything. Every word spoken in that conference room, every document they'd shown us, every tell, every reaction, every crack in their carefully constructed narrative. They're going to offer a settlement, Marcus predicted. Pemberton knows they're exposed. Victoria Ashford has put the company at significant risk, and your husband enabled it. They'll want this to go away quietly. And if I don't want it to go away quietly, then we prepare for litigation. Which means I need to ask you something, Sarah. How well do you know your husband's business dealings? Not well. He kept work separate. That's what I thought. But here's the thing. If there's one inappropriate relationship being hidden, there might be others. If there are falsified expense reports for personal expenses, there might be other financial irregularities. When people get comfortable lying about one thing, they often get sloppy about others. I thought about David's home office, about the files I'd only glanced at last night. You think there's more. I think when we start pulling on this thread, we might unravel more than just an affair. But that's investigative work, and it costs money. Real money. How much are we talking? He quoted a figure that made me wince. My own career as a freelance graphic designer brought in decent income, but nothing close to what David made. I'd always been financially dependent on him, something I'd told myself was fine because we were partners, a team. Except we weren't. We never had been. I'll figure it out, I said. There's another option. Marcus leaned back in his chair. If we can prove that Meridian Holdings was complicit in defaming you, and that evidence of their CFO's inappropriate conduct was deliberately concealed, they become liable not just for the affair, but for the cover-up. That changes everything. That makes this a case worth taking on contingency. Meaning? Meaning I don't get paid unless we win. But if we do win, I take a percentage of the settlement, usually 30 to 40%. It felt predatory somehow, but also like a lifeline. What would I have to do? Give me access to everything. Every document in your house. Every password to shared accounts you have. We need to see your husband's financial trail, his communications, his patterns. And Sarah, if we do this, there's no going back. Your marriage will be over. Your husband will know you're coming for him. It will get ugly. I thought about last night, about David's coldness, about Victoria Ashford's smug smile, about the fabricated documents meant to paint me as unstable, harassing, someone whose word couldn't be trusted. It's already ugly, I said. Let's just stop pretending otherwise. Marcus extended his hand. Then we have an agreement. I shook it, and something inside me shifted. Fear, yes, but also something else. Purpose. I drove home in a daze, Marcus's words echoing in my head. When I pulled into our driveway, the house we'd bought 3 years ago, the one David had insisted we needed for entertaining clients, I sat in the car for a long moment before going inside. The house was empty. David wouldn't be home for hours. I had time. I started in his home office, pulling out every file folder, every document, every forgotten receipt tucked into desk drawers. I photographed everything, uploading it to a secure cloud account Marcus had set up for me. In the bottom drawer, beneath a stack of old business cards, I found a burner phone. My hands went cold as I powered it on. Text messages loaded, hundreds of them, all between David and a contact saved as V. Miss you already. Tonight was perfect. V. Can't wait for Dubai. 2 weeks without you feels like forever. David. What if someone finds out? V. They won't. And even if they did, I've got it handled. Sarah won't be a problem much longer. David. I sat on the floor of his office, reading through months of messages. The affair had started 18 months ago, not long after Victoria joined Meridian Holdings. The messages were explicit, romantic, and detailed discussions of a future together. One that involved David divorcing me quietly, Victoria getting promoted to a newly created position that would remove the direct reporting relationship, and both of them emerging from the situation with their careers intact. Pemberton says we need documentation that Sarah's unstable. One message read, "Can you manufacture some incidents?" "Already started," Victoria had replied. "Margaret's statement is drafted. I'll have Thomas and Angela on board by next week." They'd planned this. All of it. Weeks, maybe months in advance. I kept photographing. Every message. Every deleted photo that showed the two of them in hotel rooms, at restaurants, on beaches, during business trips. My phone rang. Jessica. "Sarah? Marcus just briefed me. Are you okay?" I found a burner phone. They planned everything, Jess. The fake harassment allegations. The witnesses. All of it. "Can you get it to Marcus?" "Already photographing. But Jess, there's more. References to financial irregularities. Something about offshore accounts. I don't understand all of it, but David was talking about moving assets before the divorce, and Victoria was helping him." Jessica's sharp intake of breath was audible. "Sarah, that's potentially fraud. If he's hiding marital assets to avoid splitting them, what do I do?" "Photograph everything. Don't touch anything else." "And Sarah? Be careful. If David realizes you've found this, if he knows you're gathering evidence, men who are capable of this kind of planning are capable of other things too." A chill ran down my spine. "You think I'm in danger?" "I think you should consider staying somewhere else tonight just to be safe." I ended the call and looked around David's office with new eyes. How well did I really know my husband? What else was he capable of? My hands were shaking as I finished photographing the burner phone and placed it exactly where I'd found it. I took photos of the drawer from multiple angles to make sure I could replicate its exact position. Then I packed a bag. I was in the bedroom, throwing clothes into a suitcase when I heard the front door open. David was home early. "Sarah?" His voice echoed from downstairs. "We need to talk." I froze, a shirt halfway into the suitcase. He couldn't see this. If he realized I was leaving, that I'd been going through his things. I shoved the suitcase under the bed and walked to the top of the stairs, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I'm here." He stood in the foyer, still in his suit, but his tie was loosened and there was something different in his eyes. Something harder than I'd seen even this morning. "That was quite a performance today," he said. "I could say the same about you. You brought a lawyer, Sarah. You made threats. You humiliated me in front of my colleagues. I defended myself against lies. Those weren't lies." His voice rose. "You've been unstable for months, calling my office, showing up unannounced. You're obsessed, and everyone can see it." The gaslighting was breathtaking in its audacity. "David, I have receipts proving I wasn't even in the state when I supposedly created a scene. I have email records showing I called your office 3 times in 6 years. You're lying, and you know it. I know you're trying to ruin my career because you're jealous." He started up the stairs, and something in his movement made me step back. "Victoria is a colleague. A professional colleague. Your accusations are delusional." I saw the expense reports. Business expenses. I saw the hotel rooms. Separate rooms. You're twisting everything because you can't accept that I've outgrown this marriage. He was close now. Too close, backing me down the hallway toward our bedroom. My heart hammered against my ribs. "If you wanted a divorce, David, all you had to do was ask. You didn't need to lie. You didn't need to manufacture evidence. You didn't need to try to destroy my reputation. I gave you a chance to handle this with dignity." His face was flushed now, anger breaking through his controlled facade. "I offered you a clean exit, but you had to bring lawyers and make accusations and threaten everything I've built." "Everything you've built with your mistress, you mean?" His hand shot out, gripping my arm hard enough to hurt. Don't call her that. Let go of me. Not until you understand what's at stake here. You sign the papers I give you. You take the settlement I offer. And you keep your mouth shut about Victoria, about the company, about all of it. Or Sarah, I promise you, I will destroy you. I'll use every resource at my disposal to make sure no one believes a word you say. You already tried that this morning. It didn't work. His grip tightened, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. This wasn't the man I'd married. Or maybe it was, and I'd just never pushed hard enough to see this side of him. Let me go, David, now. For a long moment we stood there frozen in place. Then his phone rang. He released me, stepping back, and I saw the shift as he reasserted control. He checked the caller ID, and something in his expression changed. I have to take this. He walked back downstairs, leaving me shaking in the hallway. I heard his voice, low and urgent. No, I told you not to call this number. She's here. I can't talk. No, it's under control. Tonight. We'll finish this tonight. I moved quietly to the bedroom, pulled out my phone, and texted Marcus. He's threatening me, coming home early. Talking about finishing this tonight. I'm scared. The response was immediate. Get out of the house. Now. Go to a public place. I'm sending someone to meet you. I grabbed my purse and the small bag I'd hidden under the bed. I could hear David still on the phone downstairs. I had maybe minutes. I slipped down the stairs as quietly as I could, aiming for the side door that led to the garage. Sarah. I froze. David stood in the kitchen doorway, phone in hand. Where are you going? Out. With a suitcase? Yes. You're not going anywhere. He moved to block my path. Not until we settle this. Get out of my way, David. We're going to sit down like adults, and we're going to come to an arrangement. I've been more than generous with my settlement offer. The one where I sign away my rights to say anything about your fraud, about the hidden assets, about the fabricated harassment case? His face went pale. What are you talking about? I found your burner phone, David. I know everything. The moment stretched between us, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. The realization that I wasn't going to fold, that I had evidence, that his careful plans were unraveling. You went through my things. His voice was deadly quiet now. You tried to destroy my reputation. That phone is my private property. Whatever you found is inadmissible. Actually, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, items found in a shared marital home are generally accessible to both spouses. My lawyer explained that to me. Your lawyer. He laughed. But there was no humor in it. Sarah, you have no idea what you're dealing with, the resources I have access to, the people who owe me favors. You think your small-time attorney can go up against Meridian Holdings' legal department? I guess we'll find out. I moved toward the door, but he grabbed my arm again, harder this time. You're not leaving. David, you're hurting me. Good. Maybe that will help you understand how serious this is. You sign the papers, you take the money, and you disappear from my life. Or I promise you, Sarah, I will make you disappear. The threat hung in the air between us, and for the first time in our marriage, I was genuinely afraid of my husband. Then the doorbell rang. We both froze. Expecting someone? David asked. Yes. His eyes narrowed. Who? The doorbell rang again, followed by a knock. Mrs. Chen, this is Officer Martinez with the local police. We got a call about a domestic disturbance at this address. David's face went from pale to flushed. You called the cops? My lawyer did, when I told him you were threatening me. He released my arm, stepping back. The calculation was written clearly on his face now. Assault charges wouldn't help his case, wouldn't help his career. I opened the door to find two police officers standing on our front porch. Mrs. Chen? The female officer asked. Are you all right? Yes. I'm leaving now. Did anyone hurt you? I looked back at David, who stood in the hallway, his hands now carefully at his sides. I could see the bruises already forming on my arm where he'd grabbed me. Yes, I said quietly. My husband grabbed me and threatened me when I tried to leave. Sir, is this true? Officer Martinez addressed David. This is a misunderstanding, a domestic dispute. My wife is being emotional. Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside. What followed was a blur. Statements given. Photos taken of my bruised arm. David's protests that this was all blown out of proportion, that I was lying, that he'd never hurt anyone. By the time it was over, David had been formally warned and told to stay away from me. I had a temporary restraining order, and I was standing in a hotel room 3 miles away, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at me had a bruised arm and red eyes from crying, but she also had something else. Evidence, documentation, and a court date. Marcus arrived an hour later with Jessica, who'd taken an emergency flight from Chicago. We sat in the hotel room and I showed them everything. The burner phone photos, the fabricated HR documents, the expense reports, the threatening messages. Sarah, Marcus said quietly, this isn't just about divorce anymore. What he did tonight, the physical threats, the grabbing, that's assault. Combined with the financial fraud, the workplace misconduct, the conspiracy to manufacture false allegations, we're looking at multiple potential charges, both civil and criminal. What does that mean? It means, Jessica said, squeezing my hand, you might not just be fighting for a divorce settlement. You might be putting your husband and his mistress in prison. The weight of it settled over me. This had started as a marriage ending badly. Now it was something else entirely. There's one more thing, Marcus said. The reference David made to finishing this tonight. We need to know what he meant, and we need to know fast. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., my office. Come alone or the settlement offer disappears. Pemberton. I showed it to Marcus and Jessica. He's trying to isolate you again, Jessica said. Classic intimidation tactic. So I don't go. Actually, Marcus said slowly, you do go, but not alone. We get there first. We wire you, and we record every word of whatever proposal they're about to make. Is that legal? In this state, one-party consent for recording is legal as long as you're part of the conversation. And Sarah, whatever Pemberton is planning to offer you, whatever deal they're putting together tonight to make this go away, I guarantee it's not in your best interest. They're scared. That makes them dangerous, but it also makes them sloppy. I looked at both of them. These people who 12 hours ago had been strangers or distant memories from college. Now the only thing standing between me and whatever David and Meridian Holdings were planning. Okay, I said. Let's do it. That night, lying in a hotel bed instead of the California king I'd shared with David for 6 years, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the day, the conference room ambush, the burner phone messages, David's hand on my arm, his threats. My phone buzzed, another unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. You're making a mistake, Sarah. There's still time to fix this. Accept the offer tomorrow. Move on with your life. I promise you, fighting us will only hurt you. V. Victoria. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I took a screenshot, sent it to Marcus, and replied, See you in court. I turned off my phone and finally fell asleep. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight, for the first time in 6 years, I fell asleep, knowing I was fighting for myself. And I wasn't fighting alone. Part 2. The Reckoning. The wire felt cold against my skin as Marcus adjusted it under my blouse. We were in his car, parked 2 blocks from Pemberton's office at 9:30 a.m. "Remember," he said, his voice steady and calm, "let them talk. The more they offer, the more they reveal. Don't agree to anything. Don't sign anything. Just listen and ask questions. What if they threaten me again? Then we have it on tape. Sarah, they're going to try to scare you. That's their play. But you have something they don't expect. You're not scared anymore." He was right. After last night, after everything, the fear had burned away, leaving something harder behind. Jessica handed me a folder. "Your script. Questions to ask, phrases to use. If they offer money, ask about the breakdown. If they mention NDAs, ask about the scope. Make them be specific. Specificity is damning." I reviewed the list, my hand steady now. What if David is there? Then he violates his restraining order and we call the police immediately, Marcus said. But I don't think he will be. Pemberton is smarter than that. He'll position himself as the reasonable mediator, trying to save everyone from an ugly public battle. At 9:55, I walked into Pemberton's building alone. The receptionist directed me to the 12th floor, a corner office with a view that probably cost more than my annual income. Pemberton stood as I entered, gesturing to a chair. "Mrs. Chen, thank you for coming." He was alone. No Victoria. No David. Just him, a leather portfolio, and that practiced lawyer's smile. "Let's dispense with the formalities," he said, sitting across from me. "Yesterday was unfortunate. Emotions ran high. Things were said that perhaps shouldn't have been. I'd like to offer you a path forward that benefits everyone involved." "I'm listening." He slid a document across the desk. "A settlement agreement. You receive $2 million tax-free in exchange for a complete non-disclosure agreement regarding your marriage, your husband's employment, and Meridian Holdings. You also agree to drop any potential legal claims and to finalize your divorce within 60 days under pre-negotiated terms." I picked up the document, pretending to read it while counting to 10 internally. $2 million. That's generous. "We think it's fair compensation for your cooperation." "Cooperation in covering up my husband's affair with his subordinate?" Pemberton's smile didn't waver. "Cooperation in allowing everyone to move forward with dignity. Mr. Chen is prepared to resign from Meridian Holdings. Ms. Ashford will be transferred to another division. The company undergoes no scandal, no investigation. You receive financial security. Everyone wins. Except the truth stays buried." "Mrs. Chen, what is truth worth in this situation? You'll be divorced either way. Your husband's career will end either way. The question is whether you emerge financially secure or spend years in costly litigation with no guaranteed outcome." I remembered Jessica's coaching. Ask questions. Get specifics. What about the fabricated harassment allegations? The false witness statements? "A misunderstanding. Documents will be retracted. Apologies issued privately." "And the expense reports showing company funds used for personal travel?" A flicker of something crossed his face. "Mr. Chen will reimburse any questioned expenses." "What about the offshore accounts? The hidden assets?" The flicker became a crack. "I don't know what you're referring to." "Don't you? The messages on my husband's phone about moving assets before the divorce? The references to accounts in the Caymans?" Pemberton was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Less smooth lawyer, more calculating strategist. "Mrs. Chen, you need to understand something. The people you're dealing with have resources you can't imagine. Legal teams, private investigators, connections to judges, politicians, media outlets. If you refuse this offer and pursue litigation, your life will become a nightmare. Every mistake you've ever made will be examined, every relationship scrutinized, every financial transaction questioned. Is that a threat?" It's a reality check. You have a modest career as a freelance designer. You have no significant assets of your own. You're financially dependent on your husband. If this goes to court, you'll burn through your legal fees in months, and you'll still lose. You seem very confident about that. I've been doing this for 30 years. I know how these cases end. I leaned forward, and in that moment, I channeled every ounce of anger, every bit of betrayal, every second of fear from the past 2 days into my voice. Let me tell you how this case ends, Mr. Pemberton. I reject your offer. I file for divorce with full discovery. I file a defamation suit against Victoria Ashford for fabricating harassment allegations. I file a complaint with Meridian's board about financial misconduct. And I file a criminal complaint about the assault that happened in my home last night, which was witnessed by police officers and documented with photographs. His face had gone carefully blank. And then, I continued, my attorneys will subpoena every email, every expense report, every text message. They'll depose Victoria. They'll depose David. They'll depose you and every person who signed off on those false witness statements. And when we're done, the truth won't just come out. It'll be in court records, public records, accessible to journalists, to shareholders, to every company that does business with Meridian Holdings. You're bluffing. You can't afford that kind of litigation. Maybe not. But my attorney is taking the case on contingency, and the settlement he's expecting from Meridian Holdings for participating in defamation and covering up financial fraud, that's a lot more than $2 million. I stood up, leaving his document on the desk. You have 48 hours to present a real offer, one that includes full disclosure of all marital assets, accountability for the fabricated allegations, and Victoria Ashford's termination from Meridian Holdings. Otherwise, we'll see you in court. I walked out before he could respond, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. In the car, Marcus was grinning as he listened to the recording. That was perfect. He admitted to the cover-up, acknowledged the offshore accounts, and threatened you, all on tape. Did I push too hard? You pushed exactly hard enough. Now they know you're serious. Now they know you have evidence. Now we wait for them to panic. The panic came faster than I expected. That afternoon my phone rang. David. I almost didn't answer, but Marcus, listening on speaker, nodded. Sarah. His voice was strained. We need to talk. Your lawyer already tried that. Not about the settlement, about everything. Please. Just give me 30 minutes. Public place. Your choice. I looked at Marcus, who mouthed, record it. Riverside Coffee. 1 hour. And David? If you come within 10 feet of me, I'm calling the police. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at an outdoor table looking like he hadn't slept. The confident CFO from yesterday's ambush had been replaced by someone haggard and desperate. I sat across from him, my phone recording in my purse. Thank you for coming, he said. You have 30 minutes. I messed up, Sarah. I know that. The affair, the lies, trying to use the company against you. All of it. I was wrong. Is this your apology or Pemberton's strategy? He flinched. Both. Maybe. But also, I need you to understand. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Victoria and I, it started as just stress relief. The job was intense. She was there. And you and I had been distant for so long. Don't you dare blame me for your affair. I'm not. I'm just trying to explain. He ran a hand through his hair. When things got serious with Victoria, I panicked. I knew I wanted out of the marriage, but I also knew a divorce could cost me everything. My position at Meridian requires a stable personal life. The board doesn't like scandal. So you decided to make me the scandal instead. Victoria suggested it. She said if we could document that you were unstable, harassing me at work, that it would be easier, cleaner. I could divorce you for cause, limit the settlement, keep my job. And you agreed. I was stupid. I was selfish. And when you brought that lawyer yesterday and started threatening to expose everything, I panicked even more. The things I said to you. The way I grabbed you. Sarah, I'm not that person. I swear I'm not. You are exactly that person, David. That's who you've been all along. I just didn't see it. He was quiet for a moment. Pemberton called me after your meeting this morning. He said you're going to refuse the settlement. I already refused it. Sarah, please listen. The offshore accounts? That's not what you think. Some of that money is from investments I made before we got married. It's legally mine. But if this goes to full discovery, the way the forensic accountants will present it, it'll look like fraud. I could lose my job. I could face charges. You should have thought about that before you tried to destroy my reputation. I know. His voice rose, then dropped. I know, and I'm asking you, begging you, to take the settlement. I'll increase it. 3 million. 4. Whatever you need to feel like this is fair, but please don't drag this through the courts. Don't ruin my career. I looked at this man I'd spent 6 years with, this man who'd held me when my mother died, who'd laughed at my jokes and kissed me on our wedding day and promised to build a life together. This man who'd thrown all of it away and then tried to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. No, I said simply. Sarah, you want to know what's fair, David? Fair would be you facing consequences for your actions. Fair would be Victoria Ashford losing her job for participating in defamation. Fair would be Meridian Holdings Board knowing that their CFO used company resources to conduct an affair and then covered it up. That's fair. You'll destroy me. No, David, you destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. I stood to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. Not hard this time, but desperate. I'll fight you. I'll use every resource I have. I'll make this so ugly that you'll wish you'd taken the money. I pulled my hand away. You already made it ugly. I'm just not pretending anymore. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind. Marcus filed the divorce petition with full discovery requests. We filed the defamation suit against Victoria Ashford. We filed a formal complaint with Meridian Holdings Board, attaching the expense reports, the burner phone messages, and the recording of Pemberton's attempted cover-up. And then, we waited. The call came on Thursday evening. Marcus's phone, not mine. This is Richard Thornton, chairman of Meridian Holdings' board. I'd like to meet with Mrs. Kwao Chen and her counsel tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., our offices. Marcus negotiated. Mrs. Chen will meet with you, but the meeting will be recorded and she will have full legal representation present. Agreed. Mr. Webb, I think you'll find this meeting considerably different from the last one. The Meridian Holdings boardroom was nothing like the conference room where Victoria had ambushed me. This was the inner sanctum. Mahogany table, original artwork, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Richard Thornton was 70, silver-haired, with the kind of gravitas that comes from building an empire. He stood as we entered, along with 3 other board members. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Webb, thank you for coming. He gestured to seats. I want to begin with an apology. On behalf of Meridian Holdings, I apologize for the reprehensible treatment you received from members of our organization. I glanced at Marcus, who remained impassive. We've completed an internal investigation, Thornton continued. The allegations against you were entirely fabricated. The expense reports show clear misuse of company funds, and the relationship between Mr. Chen and Ms. Ashford represented a serious breach of our ethics policies. I could have told you all of that on Monday, I said. Yes, you could have. And you should have been believed immediately. Instead, you were subjected to intimidation and defamation. That ends now. He slid a folder across the table. David Chen has been terminated for cause. Effective immediately. Victoria Ashford has been terminated for cause, effective immediately. Harold Pemberton's firm has been removed as outside counsel for attempting to participate in a cover-up. That's a start, Marcus said. What else? Another board member spoke up, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes. Mrs. Chen, we understand you've filed suit for defamation. We'd like to discuss a settlement. I'm listening. $8 million, full public retraction of all allegations, a formal apology issued through our PR department, and a personal letter of recommendation for your design business, should you ever need it. $8 million. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having. What about the offshore accounts? I asked. The hidden assets David moved? Thornton's expression hardened. We've reported those to the IRS and the SEC. David Chen will face criminal tax fraud charges. That's beyond our control now. And Victoria? She's facing her own legal jeopardy. The fabricated harassment allegations, the false statements, those are crimes. The district attorney is reviewing the evidence. I looked at Marcus, who gave me a small nod. I have some conditions, I said. We're listening. First, I want a full forensic accounting of all marital assets, including the offshore accounts. Whatever David tried to hide, I want it found and divided legally. Second, I want Meridian Holdings to implement new policies about workplace relationships and the reporting structure for executive misconduct. What happened to me should never happen to anyone else. Agreed, Thornton said immediately. Third, I want the fabricated witness statements publicly retracted, with apologies from each person who signed them. Margaret, Thomas, Angela, they all participated in defaming me. They all need to own that. We'll make it happen. And finally, I said, I want David and Victoria both deposed under oath about everything. The affair, the cover-up, the financial fraud, all of it on the record. Because the truth matters, and I want it documented. The board members exchanged glances. That's going to make things very public, the woman said. Very messy. Good. Maybe it'll make other executives think twice before trying to destroy their spouses to cover up their own misconduct. Thornton smiled slightly. Mrs. Chen, I think you've missed your calling. You should have been a lawyer. I'm just a woman who refused to be gaslit. The settlement was finalized within a week. $8 million, full retractions, public apologies, and most importantly, the truth, all of it, documented in legal depositions that became part of the public record. David's deposition was brutal. Watching him squirm under questioning, forced to admit to the affair, the financial fraud, the fabricated allegations, the offshore accounts. It was vindicating in a way I hadn't expected. Victoria's was worse. She tried to play victim, claiming David had coerced her, that she was just following orders. But the text messages told a different story. The messages where she'd suggested the fake harassment claims. The messages where she'd coached witnesses. The messages where she'd celebrated every time I'd been humiliated. By the time the depositions concluded, both of them were facing criminal charges. Tax fraud for David. Conspiracy to commit defamation for Victoria. Perjury charges for the witnesses who'd signed false statements. The media had a field day. Tech CFO brought down by wife's investigation. Executive affair leads to corporate fraud charges. Woman fights back against gaslighting scheme. I didn't give interviews. I didn't need to. The court records spoke for themselves. 3 months after that first ambush meeting, I stood in divorce court as the judge finalized my marriage's end. David wasn't there. He was in federal custody awaiting trial. His lawyer appeared on his behalf, looking exhausted. Mrs. Chen, the judge said, I've reviewed all the evidence in this case. The court finds that Mr. Chen engaged in fraud, concealment of assets, and marital misconduct. You are awarded full division of all marital assets, including recovered offshore accounts. The settlement from Meridian Holdings is deemed separate from marital property, and the court is issuing a permanent restraining order preventing Mr. Chen from contacting you." Just like that, it was over. I walked out of the courthouse to find Jessica waiting. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Strange. Empty, maybe. But also free." "What are you going to do now?" I thought about that question. The money meant I never had to work again if I didn't want to. But I wasn't built for idleness. "I'm going to start a foundation," I said, "for women going through divorces involving gaslighting or corporate manipulation. Legal funds, investigative resources, support networks. Everything I wish I'd had when this started." Jessica grinned. "That's perfect. And you'll need a board of directors. I know a great lawyer who might be interested." "You're hired." 6 months later, the foundation was operational. We'd helped 12 women document financial fraud, expose workplace affairs being covered up by corporations, and escape marriages where they were being systematically gaslit. Each case was different, but the patterns were always the same: the lies, the manipulation, the attempt to make the victim seem crazy while the abuser played victim. And in each case, the truth eventually came out. David's trial ended with a conviction: 3 years in federal prison for tax fraud. Victoria got 18 months for conspiracy and perjury. Pemberton was disbarred for attempting to obstruct justice. Margaret, Thomas, and Angela, the false witnesses, all settled their defamation suits. Public apologies, financial restitution, and professional consequences. Margaret lost her retirement consulting business. Thomas was demoted. Angela was fired from every HR position she applied for after her role in the scheme became public knowledge. The truth had consequences, but it also had power. 1 year after that first email summoning me to David's office, I was in my new home, a modest house I'd bought with my own money, decorated the way I wanted, filled with peace instead of pretense. My phone rang. Marcus. "Sarah, I just got a call from a woman named Rebecca. Her husband is a senior executive at a pharmaceutical company. She thinks he's having an affair with his assistant and hiding assets. She said she read about your case online and wanted to know if we could help." I smiled. "Set up a meeting. Let's hear her story." "You know this is going to be hard, right? These cases always are." "I know. But someone has to fight back. Someone has to show these men that their wives aren't disposable, that the truth matters." "All right then. Welcome to the resistance." I hung up and looked out at my garden, where flowers I'd planted myself were beginning to bloom. David had tried to handle me, tried to silence me, tried to make me disappear. Instead, I'd handled him, and I was just getting started. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find a courier with a legal-sized envelope. Inside was a subpoena. David was suing me for defamation, claiming my public statements about the case had damaged his reputation beyond the scope of the legal proceedings. I read it once, then called Marcus. "He's suing me from prison." Marcus laughed. "Of course he is. Some people never learn. What do? We countersue, again, and we win, again." "Sarah, you need to accept something. David is never going to stop trying to punish you for refusing to be controlled. Some men can't handle losing power over their wives." "Then I guess I'll keep beating him in court." "That's the spirit." I hung up and added the subpoena to my file. It joined dozens of other legal documents, all chronicling the war David had started and I'd finished. On my desk was a photo from my wedding day. David and I, smiling, his arm around my waist. We looked happy. We looked like we had a future. But that photo was a lie, just like everything else about our marriage. I picked it up, carried it to the fireplace, and watched it burn. Some endings aren't sad. Some endings are necessary. And some endings are just the beginning of something better. 3 years later, my foundation had helped over 200 women. We'd won settlements totaling $40 million. We'd gotten corrupt executives fired, abusive partners prosecuted, and corporate cover-ups exposed. I was invited to speak at a women's legal conference. Standing at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces, I told my story. When my husband tried to handle me, I concluded, he thought he was dealing with someone weak, someone who would take the money and disappear, someone who valued peace over truth. But he forgot something important. The most dangerous woman in the world is the one who stops caring what you think of her and starts caring about what's right. The applause was deafening. After the speech, a young woman approached me. She was crying. My husband works at a tech company. He's been having an affair with his project manager. He told me this morning that if I don't sign his divorce papers, he'll use the company's resources to destroy me. I don't know what to do. I took her hand. Yes, you do. You document everything. You find a good lawyer. You refuse to be silenced. And you fight back. But what if I lose? Then you lose fighting instead of lose surrendering. And trust me, fighting feels a lot better. She smiled through her tears. Will you help me? That's what I do now. I gave her Marcus's card and watched her walk away, with something new in her posture. Hope, maybe. Or determination. It reminded me of myself 3 years ago, standing in that conference room, realizing I had a choice. I could let them handle me, or I could handle them. I'd made my choice, and I'd never looked back. Now I helped other women make the same choice, one case at a time, one victory at a time, one truth at a time. David was released from prison last month. His lawyer sent a letter requesting I agree to terminate the permanent restraining order so he could rebuild his life. I sent back a single word: no. Because some people don't deserve second chances. Some people deserve consequences. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well, helping others, and knowing that the man who tried to destroy you is still dealing with the mess he created, while you've moved on to bigger and better things. My phone rang. Another potential client. I smiled and answered. This is Sarah Chen. Tell me your story. And just like that, another fight began. But this time, I knew how it would end. The truth would come out. Justice would be served. And another woman would learn what I'd learned 3 years ago in that conference room. When someone tries to handle you, sometimes the best response is to handle them right back. Game, set, match. The end. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.